on the top. You know how that goes. I once again do not know what to talk about, so it's gonna be kind of off the cuff. And forgive me in advance if I go a bit off the rails. It is what it is. I started playing Shadow of War yesterday. Story. Already I don't know what's going on. Already I'm just like, what's going on? So yeah, I'm not expecting anything from the story. There's this character, this woman, she's attractive. She's like a spider. She like shapeshifts. She turns into a human. I think she's actually a spider. I'm not exactly sure if she's a witch or if she's a spider that can turn into a woman. I don't know. You know, ordinarily you wouldn't want to mess with witches. It's not really my cup of tea. Man, I had a brief romantic spell with a girl who's borderline a witch. Borderline. She was into all sorts of weird stuff, you know. But a lot of girls these days are. The occult has become trendy, which is wild. People play on pentagrams and all sorts of weird stuff, and I've always found tarot cards to be very weird as well. All this mystical stuff. Toying with like satanic imagery because it's edgy. It's edgy. I'm a rebel. It's also my fault for I think I'd taken her out. Around the time I was taking her out, I think I knew. So I don't know what the hell was wrong with me when I was doing that. So yeah, that's also my bad. But yeah, this character in Shadow of War, actually, she's like a full-on witch. She's like literally turns into a spider. And I'm like, nah, bro, no. She'll eat me while I'm sleeping, and not in the good way. That she'll literally devour me and digest me. Because she's a spider. She's a man-eating spider. I can't do it. I'm sorry. It's not how I see my life going. But that was the highlight of my playthrough, to be honest. It's an attractive witch. She's bad. She's looking good. I'll keep playing. Maybe things will pick up and get interesting. The gameplay is solid so far. Solid gameplay, like the first game. So maybe I'll post some clips. Maybe I'll put a compilation of my footage and then react to it. Post it as an ASMR video. We'll see. What else? What else? I guess I can talk about what I've been reading. I've been reading Animal Farm, but I want to talk about Animal Farm once I've finished reading. I feel like my thoughts are incomplete. So I just want to like finish reading it first. I can give like a complete review. It's very interesting though, so far. Very interesting though. I feel like it's one of those books that, unless you're someone that just catches things really quickly, I feel like you have to read it multiple times. But I think you can get the gist of it, do a single read through. I tend to read slowly as well, so some people just speed through their books and they might miss things that way. I tend to read slowly just to really soak it in. If I feel like I don't understand something, I reread it. Like a section, if I'm reading a page, I'm like, what does that mean? I'll read it So I read slowly. I don't like to rush through it. I don't like to like not understand and then move on anyway. That bothers me. So yeah. That way you don't have to read something 2, 3, 4, 5 times. I'm sure there'll be some things that I might miss. Maybe I can learn about. Maybe I can catch those things in someone else's breakdown. Maybe I can watch some videos breaking down the book. But yeah, anyway, I'll save my thoughts for when I finish the book. I've been learning about the Roman Empire, so maybe I can talk about that. It's actually pretty fascinating how it started out and how it developed, and the kind of like class division. You had the patricians and the plebs. Plebs being like the commoners who did all the manual labor, while the patricians were like the elite ruling class who they were more like the brains of the operation. But they were also like very snobbish. They didn't like the plebs. They thought very lowly of them. So over time, the plebs just fought for more privileges, and eventually they got to a position of power where, because how it used to be a monarchy, but then eventually they got rid of the monarchy, and they developed this consulate where you have 2 consuls and they rule the empire, or there was a republic at the time. Where I'm at, it's a republic. They rule the republic together. 2 consuls, and they have like a year to govern, and then you swap them out. New consuls, and eventually the plebs got themselves into that position. At first, it was like you could have 1 pleb at a time, but eventually they managed to get to a point where you could have 2 plebs being consuls, so you could have an entire consulate consisting of plebs entirely. But it was a gradual shift up to that. You could marry. It was a progression of wins. Getting marriage, right? So you could marry, you could marry a patrician if you wanted to, if you had game like that, and they got certain privileges in war, certain like tax reduction, so on and so forth. Eventually, they worked their way to the top. So yeah, interesting battles. They fought against this army of people known as the Gauls. I think it's spelled Gaul, and I think they were like what would be considered modern day France now. And the Romans were like more Mediterranean. Obviously, the French looked weird to them because a lot of them are blonde haired and very pale and whatnot. So like, what's going on with these people? And they would call them barbarians. Gauls were like some wild guys, man. And I read about how they had stormed Rome and just sacked it. Slaughtered a bunch of people, scattered the rest fled the city, fled the republic, went to other satellite states, I guess. I don't know. And the patricians just holed themselves up in their little protected region and defended it. So the Gauls never got to the patricians, but they sacked Rome and just dipped. So it was a very traumatic event for the Roman Republic. They never really forgot about that. It was a very embarrassing moment in their history. Imagine someone just walks into your country and just wreaks havoc and takes everything and scatters the people. The people flee to other places, and the ruling class hides somewhere and watches it happen. Crazy situation. There are a bunch of interesting wars. don't afford a lot. They afford a lot. But yeah, definitely a lot of modern day parallels for sure. But I've talked about this before. I wonder what it was like getting married back then. I feel like people didn't marry for love back then. I feel like marriage is very much functional. I'm sure people love their wives and love their husbands. But, yeah. Who knows, man? I do wonder about that. What was romance like back in the day? Like back in the day. Because I feel like the concept of romance as we understand it, I don't want to say it's new. Nothing's new under the sun. Surely not. I feel like, as a concept, as a philosophy, I don't think it was as widespread as it became until like the 1700s, maybe 1600s, around like post Shakespeare. Just Shakespeare kind of was like a pioneer in many ways in terms of how he depicted love in his works, and a lot of people from like the romantic era, romantic period, which is very specific period. I always forget the dates, like what from when to when. You would class this. You look at it right now. Maybe I'll remember. So let's say when was the romantic era? From the late 18th century, so late 1700s to the mid 19th century. So okay. So 1700s to 1800s, so late 1700s to mid 1800s. So yeah, that's when you really started to see people really express these ideas of freedom in terms of who you love and all that sort of stuff. I don't really mean it in the modern sense, but back then it was more so a thing of like you couldn't let's say like you were some rich person, you couldn't marry the local girl from the village and whatnot because it was seen as improper. I mean, there's still elements of that today in some parts of society where there are these class divides, but it's not the same. Back then it was just purely like you're not allowed. What are you talking about? So if you're the son of some wealthy family, you can't just go to the village and marry some village girl, for example. It is always a thing of like utility, symbols, status. It still exists in some forms today, but much, much more prevalent back in the Dizzle. And yeah, I think there was a real push for people to be like, why don't we just get married because we like the person? Have you ever thought of that? Have you ever like actually thought like maybe we should like the people we marry? So there was a whole push for that, emphasizing your emotions over your rationale, which has its issues, of course. And I definitely think that's a big issue these days. People are very emotional. Not a lot of thought goes into who people pick as their spouses, and it can be very disastrous. I think you have to marry the two. I think it's so important to actually feel for the person you're with. I think you have to like them, or at least have things about them that you kind of mess with, that you're like, that's good. But yeah, it's also important to just practically be like, is this sustainable over the long term? Very practical considerations you have to make, because when you're talking about decades and decades of being together, it just doesn't make sense. So yeah, man, I question like back, for me, when you go back hundreds or even thousands of years ago, what was it like? What did it mean to love your wife? What did that look like? Were they as playful as we are now? Was there as much room for the way we express ourselves now? I don't know. I don't know. But you do kind of wonder. Was it a mistake, this whole romantic era thing? Because, well, I don't know. Because when you look at how things have gone, what love has become, you're like, geez, man, everything's so disorganized and chaotic. So you kind of question, which was a good thing, because there was structure with the way people used to do things back in the day, whereas not very much like just pure practicality. There was structure there, and society was a lot more organized and stable. Now you have all these broken homes, divorce rates, and all this sort of things. Now, when it comes to divorce rates, I think sometimes it's tricky. I think they're not as high as we think they are. They're still pretty high. It's still pretty concerning. But I've realized that sometimes maybe I've been guilty of this. I guess I was just. I do think it's important where you get your information from, but people always talk about how high the divorce rates are, 40 to 50%. It might not be 40 to 50%, it might be like 30 to 40, something like that. I think the 40 to 50% figures that people go around is outdated data. It's old data that's like from back in the day. They're still throwing around the same stats. But divorce rates might be going down. Well, marriage is also going down. So obviously, if people aren't getting married, divorce rates are going to go down. But of those who do get married, it seems like a lot of them choose to stay married. So that's a silver lining. That's actually something to be encouraged by. That it's not as bleak as we make it sound sometimes. There's hope. There's hope. There are people out here who actually love their husbands, love their wives. So, yeah. I definitely want to partake in that as well. It's going to be interesting, man. You know what I think about? I think about how you see some married couples they just spend all their time together. I kind of miss that concept, but I do wonder what's best. Is it better to have like social circles where you kind of divide your time amongst different people? So your wife gets this amount of time, and then you spend this amount of time with your friends, and it's kind of split up that way, so that you're not too quote unquote dependent on your spouse for that social nourishment. There are couples who they have friends, they have people they see, but it's like they spend the vast majority of their time together. Is that most married couples? I don't know. I really don't know. I have to ask. I know a couple married people. I'll ask them. That's actually a fascinating. I've never asked that before. I should ask that. Like, who do you spend most of your time with? Well, obviously, I hope it's your wife. You know, like, how much time do you? Like, I'm actually curious because some people have the view that it's clingy. It's like it's too much if you just fully latch onto latch is a strong word. Yeah, just to go with their view of things, to latch onto your spouse. You should have that division where you have other people kind of also pouring into that pot of, I guess, social nourishment. We'll go with that. Versus just being like, this is my person, and this is what I'm gonna get what I need. I think about me, and I think about my kind of disposition and trajectory and how I would like to live my life. I'm not a very social person. I'm kind of like I feel like I sometimes go out because I feel like I have to interact with people, but I prefer to keep to myself when I can. But I feel like it's healthy to go and interact with other people every now and then. Just to step outside the house, see people, talk, listen to other perspectives, so on and so forth, right? But I like the idea of having one person that you get that from. You can have fun with her, you can talk to her, you can go out with her, and it's great because you get along, and that's why it's also like it's so important for me that we actually get along, that we actually like each other, that we actually have a lot to talk about. I can't. It doesn't work that well. What I'm describing doesn't work with someone that you just kind of got together for the vibes, but you later realize that we don't actually agree on that much. We don't actually like each other that much. That's crazy, bro. That's crazy. It is kind of cringe, kind of corny when someone says, "I married my best friend." But I get it. I get it. I get the concept. It's like you married someone that you genuinely are in sync with. I do think friendship has to be a part of it, right? And I feel like that's the distinction. From we were talking about prior eras, and I don't think friendship was part of the romantic dynamic back in the day. If you can even call it a romantic dynamic. I don't think friendship was a thing, like between men and women like that. I still don't think it's a thing, by the way. I don't think men and women practically can be friends to a great extent. Like not like how you can be friends. So as a guy, the way I would be friends with another guy, it's not the same as the way I would be friends with a girl. Actually, there's too many barriers. There's just things we won't understand, and also there's always that underlying element of us being the opposite sex, each of us being the opposite sex, and opposites attract, all that sort of stuff. I think it's tricky. It can get a bit messy. But we've become friendlier over the course of time, and I do think that I think that's an important part of the marriage dynamic is you actually view the person as your friend. In many ways, you can have fun with them, you can laugh with them, you trust them, all this sort of stuff, like a friend, man, like a real friend. And then you can also incorporate all the romantic elements, and I think that's just a recipe for a beautiful relationship, a beautiful marriage. Why don't people like that? I don't understand. Why do people avoid that? It's crazy to me. I get excited when I think about that. That sounds great to me. People don't like marriage. Can't be me. I just don't get it. How can you be opposed to that? Don't you want that? I'm sure everyone wants that, right? Not everyone, clearly. And look, some people will say it's like marriage as an institution, as a formal agreement. They're against that. And I mean, I guess. I think marriage is very different. Like, actual marriage is very different from whatever's not marriage, because marriage comes with that binding, and it's multiple layers of binding. It's social binding because everyone now acknowledges that you're married, and the legal binding, and the spiritual binding. I think there are many bindings with marriage. So, and married people will tell you, man. Married people, I've been told by married people, I've heard married people say this, like on, like like when you watch videos of couples just talking about their marriage and whatnot, they all say like it's very different from like when they were dating. Like everything changes once you get married. So I just feel like it's like if you're just like still you're just stuck in perpetual dating mode, boyfriend girlfriend, I feel like it's not the same. It's similar in some ways, but I feel like you're not having the same experience. And it can be a bad experience for sure for some people, but I also think when done right, I think it can be a truly magical experience. So you could be missing out on the bad stuff, but you could also be missing out on the good stuff too. Like, I want the best version of love. I don't want some mediocre subpar version, but you get the quick benefits and whatnot. I think that's why a lot of people, they take the shortcuts. You start having all the sex, you start living together, you start doing everything married people do without actually being married. And it's just like a shallow version of marriage. That's what it is. People are married without realizing it. Quote unquote married. They've taken all those steps that you traditionally would be preserved for marriage. And they want to skip out on the actual thing, which is unfortunate. I feel like all that sort of stuff it's more special when you wait and you just say, no, there's a time and a place, and we want to keep these special things for when we're actually fully, permanently committed. That just makes it more special. So yeah, that's what I would want for myself. I'm definitely, yeah, I'm gonna have a conversation. Like, we don't. So when I find a girl, I'm gonna be like, we don't need to have a extravagant wedding, do we? Can we just have something small, quick? Just invite family, whoever's available. So let's say I propose like this month. Next month we're having the thing. Like maybe even like a couple of weeks from now. Like, it doesn't have like what's the hold up? Obviously you have to have family maybe fly over. Maybe some people would want to be in attendance. But yeah, so maybe I might have to wait a bit of time. But look, if you're like I can only come 4 months from now, yeah, like, you can attend via Zoom, video call, whatever. Like, that's tough because some people like. The reason why, so some people take years, but after getting engaged, it can take years to actually get married. That's on the extreme end of things. Usually it takes like months and months and months. It can take, no, I think it's pretty normal for it to take a year or two after engagement to get married. Because people are like planning these very expensive weddings. And I'm like, what a waste of time. Well, let me be respectful. I don't want to dunk on it. I don't want to crap on anyone's wedding. But you know, me personally, a lot of these people, I don't know them like that. I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to, you know. I'm not gonna like you're not gonna be in my life after this point. Like, let's keep it a buck. Let's be real. I'm not, you know. I'm not gonna talk after this. Why are you here? And you're just eating the food and just racking up the costs. Come on, man. I just want to have my mom there, my siblings, a few of my cousins. She brings her family. All in all, really and truly, maybe it's like a dozen people, fewer, like maybe a bit more than that. And we're doing it in our backyard. Screw it. That doesn't sound romantic. I'm sorry if the girls are listening to this like, oh my god, that's terrible. Because, you know, maybe a lot of them have been dreaming about the wedding day since they're young, and they have all these plans, and they've drafted different versions of the wedding, and this person's invited, this person, they want like 500 people in attendance. That's wild. Hell no. And they got, listen, this is like debts you're talking about. Like, obviously you're gonna have to take out a loan, or you have to be doing really well to afford some stuff like that. I'm not trying to do all that. I'm serious. It's too much. And it's just, you can have a honeymoon after. Why not save money and like go on a honeymoon, good one in a good place? This is like, I feel like marriage just ends up becoming about other people. I'm not interested in all that, to be honest with you. Don't care. I'm very okay with just having a few people in attendance. Kiss the bride. Bob's your uncle married. Ta-da! Yeah, we get started. We begin the married life. Sounds great. That sounds great to me. Sounds great to me. Imagine all this effort goes into. I hope, because here's the thing. The sad reality is a lot of people put a lot of effort into the wedding, and then the actual marriage, and it's like it's an afterthought. Come on, guys, don't do that. I actually want to be married. The thing I look forward to is the marriage. I don't give a fuck. I think the wedding is important, but it's like, it's a ceremony. The wedding is important not because it's a party or it's like, oh my god, I get to invite. It's a ceremony. It has a spiritual purpose. The whole point of a wedding is that witnesses there while you're making your vows, while you're making this sacred oath to be bound in flesh and spirit. You don't need that many people for that. You just need people in your life who are actually going to hold you accountable, who are actually going to be there for your marriage. That's why I'm like, why are we having all these people that we don't talk to here? They're not going to, they don't care about our marriage, and they're just not going to be there either. Come on. And that's fine, because people have their own life to live, but let's just be real about it. Why are we pretending? So, for me, I care about the wedding for that reason, because of the purpose it serves in the spiritual sense. But, I feel like it's just become something else entirely now. Now it's a big party. Now it's a big, fat party. Very expensive party. One of my friends got married. It was a nice wedding. I got invited. I couldn't afford to go though, because I had to take a plane and I had to pay for accommodation and whatnot. I was like, I'm not doing this. And I had to wear traditional attire, traditional African attire and whatnot. Yeah, forget about it. It's just like I wanted to, but it's just too much work, man. Too much money. And all these strangers too. I didn't know anyone. There were a few people I would have seen there. At least the ones he invited, but maybe the ones like people he invited that I knew. But maybe what if they didn't show up? I'll just be there with like people I don't know for a weekend attending this wedding. Yeah, I was just like, man. I wanted to go though. I would have gone if I had the money, but I don't know if I would have been super stoked to be there. To be honest with you. To be honest, I don't like the spectacle. I don't like it to be an event. I just want it to be very intimate, very personal. But yeah, that's just me. Y'all let me know in the comments, what would you like? Maybe you want something extravagant, something mesmerizing, mind-blowing, to be televised. Not me. But maybe that's for you. Hey man, let me say this. If that's your vibe, go for it. It's not bad. It's not a bad thing. If that's your vibe, that's what you want, go for it. Me personally, I don't care. I don't care for it. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. You know I like to pray at the end of my videos, so give all a lot of things for this individual options. I'm not looking for making a whole unique and God on a part to us, peace, right purpose, thank you for business person with wonderful beautiful life, love and together, and being absolute best out of anything from team that was related to this anything. Thank you for blessing this person. Love and marriage and sustaining that love and marriage. Making very, very happy. Thank you for blessing this person with a spirit of gratitude so they can give thanks for all the wonderful things in life. And giving thanks, they can find peace, contentment, and attract evil blessings. Let your presence be found in this person's life so nourish your God, that you will, that you love them, you always be there for them. Good health and life and happiness. So this person, everyone that care about in your mind, and pray in Jesus' name. Amen, amen, and amen.